I almost didn't publish this episode because I was actually worried about how it might be perceived, which is ironic because I speak continuously about authenticity, and I am known for being really genuine and authentic in my work and content, but I still worried that if I showed you my realistic timeline that I'm actually very proud of, you might think I was less than. And then I realized that is the whole freaking point. Every time I hear someone say that they 10x'd their business, I just start tuning out because that is not the life for me, and that is not how it's worked for practically every business owner I know, every entrepreneur I know. It isn't that I don't want to make money. Of course I do. I want to make so much money. It isn't that I don't want to grow. I love growth. I love growing. I love developing. I love growing my business. But the whole point is that all we see online and on TV and in stories is that good stuff, that unrealistic stuff. All we hear is when entrepreneurs put out this perception out there where they had this rapid growth, and you can too if you buy their framework. Ultimately, I decided this needed to be said. I wanted to show you my real timeline because building a super consistent and reliable and sustainable business over time, that's what I'm all about. And I had years where I grew a lot, and I had years where I grew only a little. And then I had years that I grew so much that I had to put new systems in place. And then I had years that I had to walk it back a few steps to be able to manage the chaos around my environment. And through all of that, I still have a business. I'm still standing, and I'm not only just standing, but I'm truly living this life that I want. So I'm not going to sell you anything or some life-changing process in this podcast episode. I'm not going to sell you a framework to 10xing your business or to growing so fast overnight, but I am here to tell you simply verbatim what I did to grow my business. And it was all this whole podcast episode is actually all inspired by listening to a podcast episode that I listened to the other day, where the host said she 10x'd her business in a year, and she was so confident about how she said it. And while it sounded so impressive, for most people, that just doesn't work. And I feel like I spend so much time with clients while we're on calls convincing them that their timeline is the exact right speed that they need to be going at. That just because they're comparing themselves to someone who went so much faster than them, it doesn't mean that they're failing or doing any less. So I thought I would walk you through a realistic timeline of growing my business in case you are comparing yourself to someone like that other podcast host. I won't say who it is because honestly, I like her podcast, but I wanted to say, hey, I can be your logic-based, reality-based alternative. And if you want to see how I did it, you can look at mine, you can look at hers, you can look at anyone you want, but just know that you need to go at your own pace. So when I work with clients, I work on sustainable, consistent, reliable business building and scaling practices. I don't really believe in the whole hacks, tricks, or claims that get you rich quick, because that hasn't worked. That hasn't been the way that it's worked for most people I know. And I've been in business a long time. You'll see this in a second. I do this because I have lived my life by this, and my goal is to help you grow every single year and build a business and life you love. Grow some way, right? And let me stress again, you should work by your own sustainable timeline. What I'm going to talk about is my sustainable timeline. It does not have to be yours, but I hope that it can help you just gain some little glimmer of perspective. It takes time to grow through a shift in your mindset. Think about any big change you've ever made in your life. Did you instantly have success changing it? Or maybe did you take some time to figure it out or figure out systems to make it last? For me, growing my business to a comfortable place took years of iterating and feeling confident in the income I was making. And I'm going to explain how many years in a minute. But at times, I couldn't give my personal branding and marketing business, Lauren Davis Creative, my full-time attention. And that was okay. I had another business I was growing simultaneously alongside my nonprofit, along with my marketing business. So I had 3 things going on, right? And some of you are right there at that point right now. Some of you can't give your business your full-time attention because you have other responsibilities, and that is okay. But sustainability is everything to me. The wealth acquired quickly is not always sustainable in the long run. I'm not interested in short-term trends because I don't want to constantly be relaunching things. I see people do this all the time, and quite frankly, it just exhausts me. I've watched so many of my colleagues burn out by launching and launching and launching new things. And I mean, folks, I am not lucky. I don't even win scratch off lottery tickets. So, in no way would I ever want to build a business based on luck. Again, I want sustainability. I want to learn. I want to understand. I want to help people succeed because that makes me so happy. And I want to provide for myself while saving for the future and living a life that makes me happy. Sustainably building wealth for me allows me to have a more stable and financial situation, which makes me feel very safe and also makes me feel like I can spend on things that I really want to spend to have a really big, beautiful life. And it's allowed me to rebuild my whole life. My sustainable business helped me rebuild my whole life. So in this podcast episode, I'm going to outline when my business, Lauren Davis Creative, started making a profit. I just want to put a little disclaimer. This does not illustrate any financial information about the other business I owned, which was a retail business, or anything about the nonprofit that I was co-building. And I was growing these things year after year as well. So we're just talking about Lauren Davis Creative here, okay? So this is my realistic timeline for Lauren Davis Creative. 2006 to 2010, not profitable. Okay, I was 19 years old. I started co-building a brick and mortar record and gift store when I was 19 years old, and I started promoting it using MySpace. I was using MySpace and Twitter, and I was so excited about this business, and I put all of my ideas into it, and I was like, this is really fun, this marketing thing, and I was seeing traction with it. And so I realized that I loved marketing and growing that business so much that I made some business and branding and design focused changes in my major in college. I created social media accounts on every platform, and I became an expert at telling stories to support the retail business. I knew networking was going to be a key ingredient because no one knew who I was at all in the community. I started to put an emphasis on networking in my community, outside of my community. And with help, I ended up co-founding a local nonprofit for small local businesses to help them collaborate and communicate with each other and market themselves. And people started asking me more and more about how we were telling our stories, why we were getting media exposure, why we were getting regional and national attention. And so I opened the first version of Lauren Davis Creative, which I originally called Lauren Vonix Design and Marketing, 2012 to 2015. More expenses, still not profitable. I rented a retail office space when I was 24 years old, around this time period, to focus. I was working my butt off at our retail store, working at my marketing business a couple days a week, and then working late into the night on more things to do with my business, just to try to really focus in and really build something. I ended up meeting lots of local clients in this office. Some of them are still like my close friends today. And it's funny because we giggle about that office. Oh my gosh, I decorated it so weird. It's so cringy to look at now. Like I think I painted the walls lime green. But anyways, I hosted wine nights with entrepreneurs. I put in tons of long hours learning and working and building relationships virtually, in person. I love thinking back on those memories because it really helped me create relationships that I knew would last for a long time. And because of that networking that I was doing so frequently, people started to pay attention to my story. I ended up being nominated and awarded as one of the 20 people to know regionally, which brought me some media attention. It brought me some PR. And I started getting asked to speak at a local and regional and some national events about how I built our brick and mortar record store and how I was growing community within our volunteer-led active non-for-profit. Okay, 2016 to 2017, profitable, 4-figure reoccurring income months. And I was almost influenced to shut my LDC business down here, and I'm glad I didn't. I bought a building during these years with my former spouse where I would house my office on the second floor and the store would be on the first floor. On weekends, I helped run the retail store, and I worked late nights on Lauren Davis Creative, client work still. But it was at this point when I was kind of told that it wasn't worth it to have my business, I had a moment of clarity, which I talk about in one of the first, in an episode a few episodes back, where I thought to myself, hey, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go all in here. It was at this point I knew I needed to make some changes to prioritize my needs and my business. So I started to dedicate more and intentional time and effort to Lauren Davis Creative. So again, this is in 2016 to 2017. This is when I really started diving in. I was educating myself, becoming a better coach. I was investing in my development. I began consulting and coaching more clients and small businesses on their sustainable brands, on their businesses, and telling their stories. 2018. Guess what happened next after I started investing in myself and in my own development, in my business, prioritizing it? Profitable, big 5-figure quarters. This is when I started attending national and international conferences. It was really scary at first to travel across the country or across the ocean by myself, but that's what needed to be done. And I worked hard to develop relationships with no expectation. Like, I can't stress that enough. I met speakers and mentors who would eventually work with me, hire me, refer me to friends. This is when I actually joined 2 incredible mastermind groups. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of a mastermind. But I joined these groups, and basically what they are is just, it's usually run by a facilitator or a mentor or a coach. And then there are peers that help you think tank style, get through different challenges in your business, help you celebrate your wins. Sometimes you do in-person events together. But some of those people that I met in those first mastermind groups became my very best friends and have helped me so much in my business. That's when I first joined one of those, is in 2018. And I started getting a fire lit under my butt to host a conference locally. And I built more national and more international clients at this time into my roster. I also did my first podcast interview ever with my buddy Mike Kim in 2018. I started my email list in 2018. I went on to be on over 100 more podcasts and stages and virtual stages from then until now, masterclasses, like you name it. With the help of an amazing board of directors and through our nonprofit, we planned our very own marketing and masterminding conferences, bringing in speakers with whom I had developed these relationships with from all over the country. We actually hosted conferences twice a year from 2018 to 2022, minus 2020, of course. And I started speaking on more stages. 2019, profitable, huge growth increase, first solid 6-figure year. Oh my gosh, I was so proud of myself because I felt like I had been prioritizing my business and digging in, and it finally felt like I could see that it was paying off. And with the encouragement of so many mentors and friends and family, I launched a podcast about hosting live business events at the beginning of 2020. Whoops, 2020. Profitable, but less than the year before, and that's okay. Found out quickly that having a podcast about live business events was going to go nowhere fast as the global pandemic happened. So I switched gears to create the Real Personal Branding podcast, the same podcast you're listening to right now, where I could talk about live events, marketing, branding, and the stories behind the people, all of my favorite things all together. And I busted my butt in 2020 trying to help our local business, our retail business, survive the pandemic. I even gave my cell phone number to every local business inside the nonprofit that I was running because I wanted them to be able to text me or email me if they needed help brainstorming their way out of this crazy situation everyone was in. And I felt their defeat, and I wanted desperately to help so many of them. And I didn't know how. That was the only way I could think of, is like, here, take my number. Let me do anything I can to help you. Okay. So 2020, not the best year. It still wasn't bad, but it was definitely not my best. And that's okay, right? I just want to put that into perspective. It's okay. 2021, profitable again, solid 6 figures again. Started a mastermind of powerful international entrepreneurs in April, continued developing my expertise. I continued networking. I was giving without expectation. I was speaking on virtual stages. I continued helping my local business, my own local business plan events, and market ourselves to the community, and continued with my non-for-profit, helping local business owners free of cost, continuing to help them collaborate with each other and connect with each other. And I was coaching more. I was consulting more in my business, Lauren Davis Creative. I was still doing I was doing a lot of branding work. I was doing speaking. In the fall, I separated from my spouse, and then I got divorced at the end of that year. And I flipped my life completely upside down. I left the store and my former life of 15 years. I left all of that behind, but I gained so much clarity. And in some cases, I had no choice but to walk away from so many things. And I was exhausted and I was devastated. But the one thing that nobody could take from me was my business, my relationships, and my personal brand. I completely uprooted and I changed my life for the better. 2022, profitable again, solid six figures again, big growth. After the year I had before, my business blossomed like a butterfly. Imagine that. My eyes were open to new possibilities. I found a new and very healthy love. I began working with more speakers on building their personal brands and businesses just as a natural progression. And just like the businesses early on were asking me how I built the retail store, speaker friends were noticing the business of speaking is just as important as being on stage, and I was able to help them grow. 2023, profitable again, solid six figures again, big growth again, traveled the country. I continued to focus on my health. I had been going through some pretty significant health challenges, got a diagnosis, focused on really living a life that was true to myself and helping business owners and helping myself, helping develop myself as much as I could. And today in 2024, I'm here. Today, I help people build the kind of business that I have, a solid one. Through masterminds, through consulting and coaching, I remind them about the long game, that building a business you love isn't built on luck. And it isn't built on vanity metrics that don't actually matter. The key to building that sustainable growth year after year is developing it in a way that is meaningful for you and provides the life you want. It does not happen overnight, and I am living proof. Did you make it this far? If you did, I hope it has given you some perspective on all the ups and downs that come with building something. If this was helpful, will you let me know? I'm really here behind these podcast episodes. I make them and honestly write them usually in real time. And honestly, if you want to really see what's behind the scenes right now, I am actually traveling the country with my partner in a Ram ProMaster van built out like a tiny little apartment. And we are traveling all across the country for the next year. So if you want to hang out with me on Instagram, that's a great way to find out more about that. And speaking of masterminds, I'm starting a mastermind at the end of February, beginning of March, called the Memorable Personal Brand Mastermind. I know that some of you have made it a goal to get on stage more, to get more podcast guesting opportunities, to get featured in more articles, but you're not sure where to start. And you want to show up on social media, but you struggle to know how to be yourself online and how to make money without feeling burnt out or burdened by that. I would love to help you and introduce you to my friends and to be your business coach and mentor along with a small intimate group of peers in this productive and proactive discussion every other week, hot seats, special guest expert speakers that I'll bring in every quarter. And I just think it would be really fun to have some new faces and to bring some people together that can really help each other. In this mastermind, we're going to work on developing your personal brand strategy. We're going to talk about creating income streams with your personal brand, crafting real relationships with clients who want to buy from you. We're going to push through some challenges and limiting beliefs you have. We're going to talk about how to find qualified speaking engagements and podcast guesting gigs and publication interviews and more. We're going to optimize your online profiles for more engagement with the right customers. I would love to help you shift your mindset into an aligned space where you're just completely free to be yourself as you build your memorable personal brand presence. This mastermind I'm going to share at a much lower price. It's probably going to be somewhere around $125 to $150 a month. I would love for you to be part of this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I know that it will be super meaningful and impactful for you, just as those masterminds in 2018 that I was talking about were so impactful for me. If you're interested in this, we will leave the link in the show notes of this episode, and I will talk to you next time on the Real Personal Branding Podcast.